ಆಚರಣೆ ಮಾಡತಕ್ಕಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ
So during the course of these celebrations, there was an unfortunate incident.
ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ದುರಂತ ನಡೆದಿದೆ.
There was a grave tragedy that happened.
ಜನ ಕಾಲು ತುಳಿತಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳಗಾಗಿ
Some people slipped and fell.
11 ಜನರು ಮೃತಪಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
11 people have unfortunately passed.
33 ಜನರು ನೋವಿಗೆ ಒಳಪಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
There are various injured.
33 ಜನ.
33 of them have been injured and are receiving treatment in hospital.
Bowring Hospitalಗೆ
I visited the Bowring Hospital
ವೈದೇಹಿ
as well as the Vaidehi Hospital.
ಭೇಟಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ.
I went there and visited the injured.
ಈ ಸಂಭ್ರಮ ಆಚರಣೆ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ
During this terrible time,
ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ದುರಂತ ನಡಿಬಾರ್ದಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಇದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಬಹಳ ದುಃಖವನ್ನು ವ್ಯಕ್ತ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ.
the government expresses its deep grief at this unfortunate turn of events.
ನಮ್ಮ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆಗೂ ಮೀರಿ
somehow beyond our oversight and preparation,
ಜನ ಅಭಿಮಾನಿಗಳು,
the fans of the team,
ವಿಧಾನಸೌಧದ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಸುಮಾರು 1 ಲಕ್ಷಕ್ಕೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಜನ
they had gathered outside the Vidhan Saudha. There were more than 1 lakh of them.
ವಿಧಾನಸೌಧದ ಮುಂದೆ ನಡೆದಂಥ ಸಮಾರಂಭದಲ್ಲಿ
In the event or the function that happened
ಯಾವುದೇ
in front of the Vidhan Saudha,
ಘಟನೆ ನಡೆದಿಲ್ಲ.
there was no
ದುರಂತ ನಡೆದಿಲ್ಲ.
unfortunate tragedy or incident that happened there.
ಆದರೆ ಚಿನ್ನಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಸ್ಟೇಡಿಯಂನಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ದುರಂತ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಇದನ್ನ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ.
Nobody expected this kind of crowd to come on the field.
ನಾವು ಕೂಡ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ
An unexpected crowd. Even the government did not estimate the kind of crowd.
ಕಾರಣ ಯಾಕಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ರಿಕೆಟ್ ಸ್ಟೇಡಿಯಂನಲ್ಲಿ 35,000 ಜನ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಆಸನ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು.
The cricket stadium has the size of around 30, can occupy around 32,000 people.
ಕ್ರಿಕೆಟ್ ಸ್ಟೇಡಿಯಂನಲ್ಲಿ ಚಿನ್ನಸ್ವಾಮಿ
He's specifically talking about how the Chinnaswamy Stadium can accommodate 32,000
ಆಸನಗಳಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ
in full capacity.
ಸ್ಟೇಡಿಯಂ ಅದು. ಆದ್ರೆ 2-3 ಲಕ್ಷ ಜನ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
The number of people who actually turned up at the Chinnaswamy Stadium was close to 250 lakhs.
2-3 ಲಕ್ಷ ಜನ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ನಿನ್ನೆ ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ ನಡೆದಿರೋದು ಸಾಯಂಕಾಲ, ನಮಗೆ ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು.
The match took place and the finals took place last night, and we had information about the celebrations in the morning.
ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ.
It is beyond our expectation the kind of crowds and people who landed.
ಇಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ.
We did not expect so many thousands of people to land up on the location, and the location being Chinnaswamy Stadium.
ಸ್ಟೇಡಿಯಂನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಇದೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಬರ್ಬೋದು, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಜನ ಬರ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ.
We only thought that the stadium, that people who will come will be to the capacity of the stadium, which is around 32,000, or maybe a little more.
ನಾನು ಸತ್ತ ಕುಟುಂಬದ ವಾರಸುದಾರರಿಗೆ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಜನ ಸತ್ತಿರೋರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಯುವಕರೇ, ಯುವ ಜನ ಇದ್ದವರು, ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ಗಂಡು ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಎಲ್ಲ ಸತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
I express my condolences to the families who are bereaved of those who have lost their lives in this tragedy.
ಅವರ ಕುಟುಂಬದ ವಾರಸುದಾರರಿಗೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರ 10 ಲಕ್ಷ ರೂಪಾಯಿಗಳನ್ನು ಪರಿಹಾರವಾಗಿ
We announced a compensation of 10 lakh rupees to the family of the people who are bereaved.
11 ಜನ ಸತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
11 people have lost their lives. And to the families of those who have lost their lives, we announce this compensation.
ಯಾರು ಗಾಯಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ,
Those who have sustained injuries,
ಕೂಡ ಉಚಿತವಾಗಿ ಚಿಕಿತ್ಸೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದನ್ನ ನಾನು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಸೂಚನೆ
the
ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
government will take care of their medical facilities and their treatment.
ಖಾಸಗಿ ಆಸ್ಪತ್ರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಚಿಕಿತ್ಸೆ ಪಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ
All those who are admitted in private hospitals or government hospitals,
ಖರ್ಚನ್ನು ಸರ್ಕಾರನೇ ಭರಿಸ್ತದೆ.
the treatment will be borne by the state government.
ಬೌರಿಂಗ್ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲಲ್ಲಿ ಫ್ರೀಯಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ
They-
ಉಚಿತವಾದ
Those who are admitted in Bowring Hospital will get treatment free of cost.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಗಾಯಾಳುಗಳಿಗೆ
All those who have sustained
30
injuries,
ಜನ
all of them
ಅಂಶಗಳ
the government will support their medical treatment.
11 ಜನ ಸತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಈ 33 ಜನರು ಕೂಡ ಅದೃಷ್ಟವಶಾತ್
11 people have lost their lives, but 33 people have suffered previous injuries and are admitted in various hospitals.
ಕೆಲವರು ಔಟ್ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೊರಟೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
There are a few people who have sustained injuries,
ಅವರು
sought treatment as
ಸೇರಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ
outpatient.
47 ಜನ.
If you count them as well, the number of people who sustained injuries is 47.
ಅವರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಇಂಜುರಿ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ನನಗೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಗಳ ಜೊತೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ನನಗೆ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿರೋ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಡೇಂಜರ್.
Based on the briefing that the doctors have given me, all those who have sustained injuries, they are all out of danger for now.
ಆಮೇಲೆ
On a question whether there is anybody who's critical among the
ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ
injured, the
ಬೇರೆ
chief minister
ರೀತಿ
said
ಎಲ್ಲ
no.
ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಊಟದ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಎಲ್ಲನೂ ಕೂಡ ಸರ್ಕಾರನೇ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ತದೆ.
They're taking care of the patients, be it their transportation or the food that needs to be provided to these patients as well.
ಇದು ಒಂದು ಅನಿರೀಕ್ಷಿತ ದುರಂತ. ಯಾರು ಈ ಕಾಲ್ತುಳಿತದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರ ಆತ್ಮಕ್ಕೆ ಶಾಂತಿ ಸಿಗಲಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
We pray and offer our deepest condolences to the people who have lost their lives in this unfortunate tragedy.
ಬಹಳ ಜನ ಯುವತಿಯರು.
We offer our support to those families. Many of them are
ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು
young men and women. Some of them are even students who have lost their lives in this. We offer our support to their families.
ಸೊ ವಾರಸುದಾರರಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಪೋಷಕರಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಸಾವಿನ ದುಃಖವನ್ನು ಭರಿಸ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಕೊಡಲಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ದೇವರಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ.
The Chief Minister reiterates that they offer their condolences and prayers to the family to
ಒಂದು
gain strength at this time, especially at the time of this tragedy.
ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
We've also ordered an inquiry into this incident.
It is indeed a terrible evening in Bengaluru. You're listening to the Chief Minister, Mr. Siddaramaiah, who is briefing the details of the number of people killed. 11 people, unfortunately, all RCB fans who had turned up there. Over 1 lakh people had turned up at the Chinnaswamy Stadium, a stadium which has capacity of just over 30,000. Just 5,000 police personnel were on duty. And even as they were celebrating an IPL title victory after 18 long years, tonight in Bengaluru city and all across Karnataka, there's going to be a sea of tears and a sea of mourning. 11 people dead, more than 30 injured, as a stampede broke inside the Chinnaswamy Stadium, where the team, the Royal Challengers Bengaluru, the winners of the IPL title, were being felicitated by the State Cricket Association and by the state government. Like I said, over 1 lakh fans turned up at the stadium, which can hold only about 30,000 capacity, and there were just 5,000 police personnel to man these crowds. And despite the stampede and the deaths, the gala celebrations continued inside. Isn't that a brazen evasion of responsibility? Isn't going ahead with the celebrations tone deaf and insensitive to the families of those who lost their lives today? Should the state not be held accountable for these glaring lapses? Let's give you the different set of events that happened. It started off as a victory lap for the Royal Challengers Bengaluru. They touched down today at the HAL airport right in the heart of the city. Fans had been waiting loyally for them for the last 18 years to try and get a hold on the trophy. The Deputy Chief Minister also was there. Then you have the next set of visuals where the fans turned up in huge numbers. You heard from the Chief Minister a moment ago, more than 1 lakh people. There was poor crowd management. You can see just in the outside area of the Vidhan Sauda, in the road leading up to the stadium, there was virtually very little arrangements for the kind of crowds that were expected. And then, of course, videos soon started emerging of the police having to resort to lathi charge. Remember, these are fans who've come there to celebrate their team. Because of the excess number of crowds and the lack of crowd management, the police had to resort to lathi charge. This was happening outside the stadium, the Chinnaswamy Stadium. Altogether, what you heard from the Chief Minister, 11 lives have been lost. More than 50 people have suffered various kinds of injuries, both grave and minor injuries. This was a celebration. It took an extremely tragic turn. The injured fans, and you can see the next set of visuals, many of these injured fans, many of them being crushed under the weight of those who were following behind them. They were rushed out of these crowded areas. Policemen also were seen trying to help with unconscious patients, trying to get them to the hospital as quickly as possible. Another tragedy has struck in a place where we simply didn't have adequate crowd management capacity, crowd management facilities. More families like this lady and this gentleman, they are left distraught. What is even more striking is the fact that the fans continued to get trampled despite the celebrations continuing inside the Chinnaswamy Stadium, and that seemed utterly insensitive, utterly tone deaf. Who should be blamed for the loss of lives? Can the state evade the responsibility? There was a fan frenzy that happened at the RCB's victory. This is the Stampede timeline. This is what we know so far. The RCB's victory lap turned fatal. What essentially happened was, for a stadium which has a capacity of about 30,000 people, more than 1 lakh turned up. The fans were allowed to enter the stadium, all of them without any registration, any passes. There were specific gates, gate number 3, gate number 10, and gate number 21, where you saw the maximum disruption, the maximum, lack of crowd management, and the maximum casualties, in fact, were seen at these 3 gates, 3, 10, and 21. The 3 metro stations around the Chinnaswamy Stadium had to be shut as a result of that because of the sheer number of crowds who had turned up. The injured then subsequently were rushed primarily to 2 hospitals, the Bowring Hospital and the Vaidehi Hospital. The Karnataka Chief Minister also visited the injured at the hospital some time back. But some very, very basic and very glaring questions need to be asked of the state government, the authorities, the KSCA. Number one, who is going to take responsibility for the death of these 11 cricket fans? Number two, were there adequate security measures that were put in place by the local administration? Just 5,000 police personnel for a crowd of, as the Chief Minister said, in excess of 2 to 3 lakhs. Didn't the state apparatus predict such a large gathering for the event? Where were the intelligence sources? How come they didn't predict the number of people who were preparing to come for this event? Were enough police personnel, like I said, just 5,000 for a crowd of 2 to 3 lakh people who had gathered? How would they at all be able to control the booming crowds? Did the state apparatus also mismanage the entire felicitation event? Despite knowing that there were deaths outside, despite knowing that there was a stampede outside, why did they still go ahead with the event? How were thousands of fans, without passes, without any registration, without any online ticketing, how were they allowed to enter the stadium in the first place? Wasn't this a case of gross poor planning and mismanagement that led to the stampede? Also, lack of basic administrative preparedness, which the state should have seen. That if more than 1 lakh people are turning up, then the state should have had prior intimation regarding the same. Did the state administration lack the foresight to estimate that this number of crowd would turn up? And if they did they have adequate measures for crowd control? Were there enough ambulances, first aid kits, first aid responders, all other safety measures that you would normally take in a place where you expect large number of crowds? Were they deployed by the state government and the state authorities at the Chinnaswamy Stadium? I want to go across to our reporters and editors. Harish is now joining us live from the Chinnaswamy Stadium. Sudat Bharadwaj is also joining us from one of the hospitals. Rohini Swamy will be joining us from the metro station, the closest MG Road metro station there. And Vivek Narayan is the managing editor of our Southern Channels. He's also joining us. But Harish, I want to come to you first. You know, this is a case of utter mismanagement. I mean, everybody knew that because the team had to wait for so long, more than a decade and a half, to win the trophy, there would be such a large crowd coming. How come the state and even the State Cricket Association, frankly, how come they did not prepare for this?
Absolutely. Zaka, a pertinent point to mention here is that just last night itself, crowd control was an issue. Although the match took place in Ahmedabad, several junctions in Bengaluru, people were sitting there, honking, partying. In fact, several junctions were blocked till 1 or 2 in the morning. So it was very clear that when the team reaches Bangalore, the frenzy will hit a new high. Just look at the situation here. This is gate number 7, one of the worst affected. Eyewitnesses telling us that at least 2 to 3 people might have got killed in stampede here. And look at the scene here. It explains a lot. A lot of belonging left behind, footwear, jerseys, the clothes, shades, a lot of it. Essentially people, many of them who possibly got injured or killed in the stampede just because there was not good communication. There was no clear communication that if people did not have a valid ticket or a pass, they shouldn't come near the stadium. In fact, when we were doing our live broadcast, even at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, there were at least 25,000-30,000 people outside the stadium near the main entrance. It's just a half-kilometer stretch near Cubbon Park. And it was very clear that that stretch of road couldn't take that kind of population or that kind of crowd. Despite that, it's not very clear if any authorities had any sort of a mechanism to monitor the crowd, regulate the exit and entry at some of these metro stations, Cubbon Park being the main one, Vidhan Sauda, MG Road. It was only much later in the day when Metro put out details saying that we are shutting down exit and entry at these metro stations, which meant the crowd kept coming in. A large majority of them, even as we were doing our live broadcast, headed towards Vidhan Sauda. It's a miracle really that there was no untoward incident near Vidhan Sauda, because the visuals show that even there was a lot of crowd, not enough policemen on the ground. The third aspect to note here is there was a letter written asking for permission to hold an event in Vidhan Sauda. What we are picking up is the police were not really comfortable giving go ahead for that. The opposition is now saying it was the Chief Minister who nudged the authorities or the police to give a go ahead for that. The other aspect to note here is it's still not clear who asked permission for this event. One, what was the due diligence done before giving permission for this event? Remember, it's happened within 16 hours of RCB winning that cup. Did the police have enough time to prepare for this? We've seen that parade that happened in Mumbai after the T20 World Cup, but Mumbai had a good couple of days to prepare for that. But here, within 16 hours, can they manage to do that? The other aspect that KCA will have to answer now is, it's a stadium that has infrastructure for 30,000 people. But how did they not have basics like having necessary stretchers in place, doctors in place, first aid kit in place, and an emergency exit to take out people in case there is an emergency and they need to be taken for medical care? What we pick up is a lot of them were rushed in police vehicles, and we have seen those visuals where policemen have carried those victims to the nearest police jeep and then taken them to the hospital. So that's the kind of preparedness we are talking about. Lapses definitely at multiple ends: KCA, the RCB, the state government, the police administration, and everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, at every level, there definitely seems to be lapses that have been made, and accountability needs to be fixed. I want to go across to Vivek Narayan as well. Vivek, I think the basic question also was what Harish was alluding to. What was the hurry to have this event, organized within 24 hours? RCB just won the tournament yesterday, last night. It went on till about midnight. And something as basic as, if the stadium has only 30,000 capacity, why would you allow 1 lakh people to come in?
Exactly, Zaka. To call it negligence is being kind to the people who have been kind of party to what has happened, the tragedy which has happened today. It should have been all part of the game plan. They should have envisaged these possibilities. And to be fair to the Karnataka police, to the Bangalore police, they did flag it. I have very clear source-based information that they have at multiple occasions flagged this. Remember, there were 3 events which were to take place today as of afternoon. One, the visit to the Vidhan Sauda. Second was this event at the Chinnaswamy Stadium. And the third was this victory parade. Karnataka police was against doing 2 of them. They said no victory parade because the roads are going to be difficult for us to man, and it is going to be too big an area to man by the police forces. Then they said the Vidhan Sauda event should also not be happening, because the distance between Vidhan Sauda and the Chinnaswamy Stadium, which is less than a kilometer, we will have to divide our 5,000 strong force that we have for the bandobast. And that would also lead to coordination issue. But that is where the political leadership leaned. If you look at the series of tweets from yesterday, they are all elated. Of course, even the politicians have the right to watch the cricket match. But the way they used it for their own, furthering their own image and to become popular among a crowd of popular cricketers is what stands to be differentiated by the viewers. What has happened is that they insisted that first the cricketers come to the Vidhan Sauda. The Chief Minister, Deputy Chief Minister, all of them wanted to meet them, to garland them. All that is fine. But it had to have the necessary precautions, which meant the 5,000 strong force were divided into 2. Half of them at Vidhan Sauda, last minute event happening. And in, say, 12 hours from the victory to when these things were happening, it was a very hurried event which happened the way the police bandobast was done. And then, of course, what happened to the ticketing system? After winning the match at 12 o'clock, the authorities were opening the ticket online system at 2 o'clock. And by 3 o'clock, it was over. All the 35,000 tickets were sold. That's what we are told. So we had a good 3 lakh people waiting outside, jostling to get into that small stadium in terms of the number of people who were waiting there. And the police, the officials, nobody had any clue. The answers need to be told by the politicians, by the franchisees, by the KCA, everyone equally could answer.
All right, Vivek, thanks for that. Harish, very quickly, we heard from the Chief Minister some moments ago earlier on in this bulletin, and he basically said that he announced the compensation, gave out the details of the number of people dead. Is there any inquiry that the state government is ordering to find out what went wrong and where accountability needs to be fixed?
Well, they are ordering a high-level inquiry, but the problem here is multiple layers here. Will they look into RCB, the way they have gone about deciding this event, the time of it and how it will be organized, the KSEA, the stadium owners, and more importantly, will this inquiry also look at who within the government pressurized the police to allow these events, including the one at Vidhan Sauda, because the police clearly were not in favor of that event, because Vidhan Sauda, they believed, we can't accommodate the kind of crowd that will turn up. In fact, some of the videos that have been shot from the 3rd floor of Vidhan Sauda show a good 15-20,000 people just outside Vidhan Sauda. In fact, we were making our way out of Vidhan Sauda and it was getting difficult. They had closed most of the exits. So it's an event that shouldn't have happened even at Vidhan Sauda. In fact, B.Y. Vijendra, speaking earlier in the day, said it's a miracle that nothing untoward happened at Vidhan Sauda. Although there were incidents of somebody throwing slippers and other similar smaller incidents, it's a miracle that there was no incident at Vidhan Sauda is what the BJP is saying. More importantly here, what has to be highlighted is that many are saying this event could have happened a day later. Yes, some of those stars were leaving India. For example, Josh Hazelwood has to travel for the World Test Championship. Others, the Indian team members, have to travel to England. But then they could have had the other remaining members of the RCB. The mega star, Virat Kohli, is not travelling. They could have had him and have an event in Chinnaswamy Stadium, and it could have been pulled off smoothly, making it very clear that only people with tickets will come here. Others won't be allowed anywhere close to the CBD. That could have been a solution. Even that hasn't happened. And even the area that we are talking about, just a kilometre distance between Vidhan Sauda and Chinnaswamy Stadium, and this kind of a crowd, 2 to 3 lakh people, can't spread out in such a small area.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Harish reporting for us tonight from the Chinnaswamy Stadium, and you can see in his background the chappals and shoes of the people who were caught in that stampede still being strewn around there. Unfortunately, 11 people have perished. Our thoughts and prayers with the families of those victims and also those who are in hospital who are currently undergoing treatment. Let me now open this up to our political panelists. Bhaskar Rao, spokesperson of the Karnataka BJP, is joining us. L. Hanumanthayya is former Rajya Sabha MP of the Congress Party. B.S. Arun, senior journalist, is joining us. Sanjana Galrani will also be joining us. But let me start with Mr. Hanumanthayya. Should there not be accountability fix, sir? Why was there such a big hurry to have this event in the first place within 24 hours of this victory? Number two, who gave permissions for 1 lakh people or more than 1 lakh people to gather at the stadium, which has a capacity of just 30 or 32,000 people? Why was this hurriedly done sort of performance or hurriedly done program convened at the Vidhan Sauda? Ultimately, should the accountability for all of this, whether it's on the state government, whether it's on the Karnataka State Cricket Association, should this not be fixed, Mr. Hanumanthayya?
No, first question is whether this can be done in a hurry. What was the necessity is your question. I feel this is the right time to honor the people who won the World Championship, like IPL Championship yesterday at about 11 o'clock. You should have seen yesterday, I have seen personally traveling across Bengaluru. In almost all the roads, people were in the road at the 12 o'clock and up to 3 o'clock they were on the road. And they were celebrating the victory of RCB throughout the Bengaluru and across the country also. But the next day, honoring those candidates, the players, was a right decision according to me. It is not wrong. But the expectation of the police and the assessment of the organizers should have been much more careful. That how many people would have come to the celebration function and what should be the arrangement. That should have been the precaution they must have taken.
Sir, the word that we have is that the police had told the state government repeatedly that one, do not do the Vidhan Sauda function because we don't have the capacity or the police personnel, the number of police personnel for that. And number two, they were also not in favor of allowing such a large crowd to come to such a small stadium. And that too, this victory parade is, less than a kilometer between the Vidhan Sauda and the Chinnaswamy Stadium. They said 2-3 lakh people. It cannot hold 2-3 lakh people in a small space of 1 kilometer.
No, it is true. The the fans should have been controlled. But in these cases, you cannot control the fans because they have come across not only in Bengaluru, from across the other parts of around the Bengaluru. So what I wanted to, put before you, the arrangements made should have assessed properly that how many people and what should have been the arrangements across the celebration. If the celebration is inside the stadium, how many people will be allowed to sit inside? That was the assessment should have been done. So that is one thing. But
BS Arun, first of all, everybody knows the capacity of the Chinnaswamy Stadium. When you have regular matches there, BS Arun, you have to buy tickets, right? There's a ticketing headcount that goes in. In this instance, I was told that it was free entry for everybody, and therefore, everybody turned up. More than 1 lakh people turned out at the stadium itself. Now, surely the organizers know this. The RCB team knows this. It's their home ground. The KSCA, the Karnataka State Cricket Association, knows this. How come they did not alert this to the authorities, or how come they did not have some kind of ticketing mechanism whereby only those who had tickets would be allowed inside the stadium?
Well, Zaka, I would like to just point out before answering this question about the very preparation and planning for this kind of a humongous, events, more than one event that has been planned for Bangalore. So the procession starts from the airport itself, HL airport to the hotel, and then hotel to Vidhan Sauda, and then Vidhan Sauda to the stadium. It is stadium, just about half a meter. 10,000 people there in the situation. See, so many stampedes have happened in the country. You take Goa, you take Hathras, you take recently in the Prayagraj, and there are proper guidelines. There are proper guidelines as to how the crowd should be managed. So, police should have forethought on this and ensure that, yesterday itself, last night itself, the kind of frenzy that we saw in Bengaluru, the kind of people who have gathered on the streets, it's not just in Bangalore. And 2 deaths have taken place, one because of the accidents owing to celebration in Shumaka. So the police knew what might happen with so many people gathering, number one. Number two, coming to your question, I don't think, ticketing such an event, a street celebration would be proper. But then passes could have been given online, or, celebration could have, the best thing was celebration could have taken place a day later or 2 days later. What was the hurry? And do you have adequate time for preparation to mobilize the police force? And see, at the gate, the main thing happened at the gates. So the gates, you hardly see any policemen there. People were struggling to enter. And why they did not allow the people to enter early? I saw at 1 p.m. a crowd gathering outside and huge queue being formed.
Okay.
They could have been allowed there at that time itself, instead of waiting till 5 p.m., making people wait, making people frustrated. And, and because of the frustration, all these things happened. How people were going inside, how they were climbing the barricades, how they were climbing the walls, all this we could see.
I think so. What I meant by ticketing was that there has to be a mechanism, free passes or whatever it is, there has to be a mechanism whereby you can regulate or manage the head count of people who come inside the stadium. In a stadium which has only 30,000 capacity, you can't house 1 lakh people. That's a recipe for disaster. Sanjana Galrani is also joining us. I mean, crowd management, what BS was saying, I think he has a fair point. What we saw in Prayagraj some months ago, what we saw in other places, we can't get a concert organized well in this country. To have 2-3 lakh people in a 1 kilometer stretch from Vidhan Sauda to Chinnaswamy Stadium, surely this was something that anybody could have predicted. Anybody with some degree of foresight could have predicted. Either the police or the State Cricket Association, the IPL franchise owners of RCB, or the state government. Now, the unfortunate tragedy, Sanjana, is that nobody, none of these actors, none of these people will be held accountable for this. Ultimately, the people who died, they died. It's the loss for their families. They'll get some compensation and everybody else will move on.
I think it's very sad what has happened. The entire city was raving in happiness of RCB, and this has happened after 18 long years of waiting. I think all the teams in IPL have won at some point in time, but it was one team named RCB which had never won in the history of IPL. And finally, when the Almighty blessed them with a win, with a cup, and all the reasons to celebrate, it's immediately followed by such a disaster. I really, really feel bad, and my heartily condolences to the families who are suffering with this particular unbearable and uncorrectable loss. I think this loss cannot be corrected at all, because some really young kids have lost their life, and I can only imagine what their parents would be going through. But this is a huge lesson, and I would not blame the government, certainly. I would not blame the Karnataka police also. Let me tell you, Karnataka police is one of the finest of the police, and this particular outrage which has happened, I think
Okay.
some kids were so over hyper enthusiastic to celebrate. They have also climbed on trees, if you can see.
Okay,
And
Sanjana, give me a
literally they
moment.
have.
I'm also joined by Mr. Arun Dhumal. He's the chairman of the Indian Premier League. Mr. Dhumal, was any information given to the IPL, the organizers, the IPL Council about this particular felicitation program that was being carried out at the Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bangalore?
None whatsoever. For us, IPL finished last night, and we had no knowledge of this program. In fact, I got to know about this program once I reached back home from the media itself that this kind of incident has happened. And when I inquired how did it happen, then I was told that there was some celebration happening there, which is very sad. And I would like to convey our heartfelt condolences to all the families who have lost their loved ones. It is indeed very tragic. But let me make it very clear, BCCI had no knowledge of this program, and BCCI and IPL has nothing to do with it.
Sir, but one of the organizers happens to be the Karnataka State Cricket Association, which comes under the BCCI or is answerable to the BCCI. Did the KSCA not keep you folks in loop?
No, like I told you, IPL for us ended last night. There is no knowledge to BCCI with regard to this program. See, Zaka, you would remember we had to close the game at Dharamshala.
Yeah.
But BCCI ensured each one of the fans went back safe and sound. I was personally there to make sure that each one of the fans out of the 25,000-30,000 people present there, they left the stadium safe and sound. So for us, IPL ended last night. We have no knowledge of this program, and it is very unfortunate.
So who was organizing this? Was the franchise owner organizing this? The state government organizing this? The Cricket Association of the
no
state?
knowledge. IPL ended last night. All the officials were going back home. They must have reached back home now.
Okay.
So we had no knowledge how did it get organized, whether the fans came on their own or whether they were called for any celebration.
So,
and we have no knowledge of it.
Our reporters on the ground are saying that the organizing of this felicitation was done by 2 or 3 different agencies. One was the franchise owners, the RCB. The other was the Karnataka State Cricket Association, KSCA. And of course, they say that requisite permissions were sought from the police and the state government.
See, if you see at the event, there was no BCCI official present there.
Okay.
Of all the arrangements there.
All right, we lost that line with Mr. Dhumal. We'll try and see if we can go back to him. But he's saying that there's no role of the IPL, the governing council, or the organizers. Yeah, Mr. Dhumal, you're back here. Go ahead, make that point. We just lost you in between. Okay, we've lost that line again. We'll try and see if we can go back to Mr. Mr. Dhumal. Yeah, I think you're getting cut in between. Now you're back. Okay, let me go back to our political panelists. Bhaskar Rao, you heard the IPL commissioner, the IPL chairman, saying that they had no role. They didn't even know about such an event. He came to know of it through television after the stampede happened. But then the bigger question that needs to be asked is, if an organizing of such a felicitation ceremony is happening, isn't there some kind of input by the police intelligence units, by the police commissioner himself, to the state, whether this is possible, not possible, how can we regulate the crowd? I mean, our reporter on the ground was saying even the metro stations, the 3 metro stations around the stadium were operational till much after the stampede happened.
See, there was a great hurry to organize this felicitation event, despite knowing that yesterday's celebration commenced at 11:45 and went on till 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. What was the great hurry to do it, knowing well that emotions had taken over and there is no way in which the enthusiasm of the fans could be controlled? Now, Honorable Chief Minister has said people are wrong. IPL Commissioner says, I am not aware. BCCI says, I am not aware. Then finally, you will blame only the police department. You would have seen that the police have worked a whole night to ensure that celebrations went off peacefully. Someone has very, very wrongly advised the Chief Minister to conduct a felicitation program so early. Even after elections also, we wait for the frenzy to die down, and only after 2 days we carry on a program. Now, before the frenzy dying down, you have got more number of people into this whole limited space where there is no preparation like having ambulances, barricades, ropes, crowd cutting equipment, and various kind of ways in which you segregate the people over there. So what is it that we expect? And now it is very insensitive on the part of the Chief Minister to blame the public over there. He should as well take the blame upon himself over there. A tragedy has occurred, and he has the temerity to say that we never expected this crowd to happen.
But sir, so wouldn't there have been some kind of prior information that, look, we're expecting 1 lakh people, or we're expecting 2 lakh people, and the stadium can only hold 30,000 people?
Zaka, as responsible police officers and those who are seated in intelligence, should tell the Chief Minister, this is not the appropriate time to do it. The frenzy has to die down. Now the Chief Minister suddenly says the crowd suddenly came. Yes, it will definitely come. When you are organizing a state-sponsored event to felicitate, everybody wants to see the heroes in flesh and blood. So natural that people will congregate and come running from all. The city is now in an absolutely traffic gridlock. Nothing is moving. People have parked their vehicles and are walking around because it is just impossible to move around, because at such short notice you call and then you say that people have come in huge. Yes, definitely. As Sanjana said, after 18 years you get something which you have been denied every year. So this is a surge. It is a failure to have anticipated. And then you are blaming the pro stations also.
Mr. Hanumantaya, Mr. Rao has a point. What was the pressing hurry? I mean, even election celebrations, the victorious party takes it out after 2 or 3 days once the frenzy dies down. I mean, wasn't this purely for political reasons that you had to have a separate function in Vidhan Sauda? Why? You might as well have had one full function at the stadium and then regulated the entry into the stadium. How can a stadium which has 30,000 capacity be host to 1 lakh people? It's basic common sense.
No, let me clarify. First of all, the aspirations of the people were expressed from yesterday night 11:40 to the morning. They were on the street celebrating the victory. And it is very correct to honor these flyers the next day. It is not wrong. There is no wrong decision about this.
Sir, is that wrong, or is the death of 11 people? Is the death of 11 people wrong? Were you ready to honor these people with the deaths of 11 people who died in a stampede?
No, it is a great tragedy which I mourn for them. I sincerely, or with the souls of those people who have given their life for this. It is a most untoward incident and the greatest tragedy in the state of Karnataka, as I wanted to put it. But the arrangements made for that big crowd, they were never expected. There will be a lakhs of people coming to this function. Nobody expected.
How can you not anticipate this? Like you said, like Sanjana said, like Mr. Rao said, you're winning this trophy for the first time after 18 years. How can you not anticipate such a crowd frenzy?
I very strongly believe the intelligence of the Karnataka should have given the advice to the government and the police that there will be a gathering after seeing yesterday's night the aspiration of people on the street. That should have been the precaution.
So you are saying that the police did not convey any kind of intel to the government or any information, any advice to the government that, look, we are in no position to regulate this or to control this.
They should have told the government this will be the, and any untoward incident should not have happened.
Sanjana also wants to come in, and then Mr. Rao. Yeah, Sanjana. So he's saying that the police did not give prior warning to the government. Well, the information that our reporters are telling us from the ground is something opposite. Police warned the government, but the government wanted to hold this function in such a hurry.
This is completely unpredictable what has happened. I want to talk without any disturbance. This is completely uncalled for. The slightest of the idea that something like this will happen, I'm sure the government is a very sensitive government. It's a very good police setup that Karnataka has. Karnataka has one of the finest police setups amongst the entire country. That's how good our law and order system is. So let's stop having this blame game to be thrown on the government or the police. Firstly, look at the way people are behaving. There's so many fans who have gone haywire and haphazard. Fine, we can understand your happiness, but that doesn't mean you climb on the peak of a tree which is some 40 feet and you stand there and you express it and you have a fall, right? Or that does not mean you rush into this sort of a stampede that, like God has come on earth and this is the only time we can glance them. We have to control our emotions. This has to be a part of everyone's upbringing, and all these mistakes sadly happen with people who are in a youthful age in between probably 16 and 25 or 28 or 30, when they're really, really hot blooded. I feel so bad for their parents right now. And the lost life cannot be bought back. You will behave like this. You will look at those kids over there in the frame right now, how
Yeah.
they're going and climbing
Yeah.
on top of the compound, like if they have some superpower to fly off from the compound. Obviously, they will enjoy themselves. Like someone like me, I won't even have the guts to go out of my car, not because I'm a public personality, but just as a human being. Yo, beda pa, is too crowded. I'll be like, oh my God, there's so much crowd there. I won't even have the guts to go that side.
I mean, look at these
civilization has to
pictures.
come
That
in
poor
with the
cop, that
people.
one constable there with one
Civilization has
lathi.
to
Look at
come in
look at those
with the
pictures.
people.
That one constable with one lathi is controlling a crowd of God knows
What
how
can
many
they
thousand.
do? They can't hold hands of people.
No, so
They're
then
doing their duty. If the
somebody
constable
needs
will
to somebody
use
needs
their
to
lathi, then you're saying police is
somebody
using
needs to be
lathi.
held accountable for that. Mr. Rao has been a former police
stop blaming
commissioner.
the police.
Look
If
at
the police
look at
uses
look
a
at the
simple
look at the
lathi
visual.
to
Look at the
control.
visual, Mr. Rao. Look at the visual.
let me tell you, let
One
me
policeman, one constable with one lathi is manning some 1,000 people. What can he do? Now, who's responsible for this, Mr. Rao? You're on mute, Mr. Rao.
Whoever is the host of this program is responsible, because you are not anticipated. Now suddenly saying that more people came. You were the one who invited, and then you say that too many people came. Just as Mr. Hanmantappa himself said that the excitement of the people cannot be controlled. You should have realized. And even if police has told you or not told you, as mindful leaders, what was the great hurry to do this? Was there any political urgency, or was there any urgency to make somebody happy that it was done immediately, less than 24 hours after the match has taken place? This could have as well waited. There are more urgent issues plaguing Bangalore.
He's saying that the aspirations of the people needed to be addressed. Like from last night, 11 o'clock till this morning, 8 o'clock, they were celebrating. This was an avenue for that celebration.
You should have realized
Exactly.
the law and the people who are celebrating up till 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then suddenly you make a continuation. A police force that has been completely exhausted since yesterday evening. How impractical of the government to bulldoze the police department and conduct this program. What is the Home Minister doing? He is the person who's supposed to be taking a part. He is absolutely muted. He is silent. Everybody seems to be talking over there.
No, that is a fair question. Today we heard from the CM, we heard from the Deputy CM. I didn't see any sound bites of the Home Minister. I didn't hear from Dr. Parameshwara.
10 lakh rupees. These are all meaningless, foolish things for a decision that was taken in great hurry to satisfy their ego over there.
No.
And even
it is Parameshwar.
They want to felicitate.
No. Where was Dr. Parameshwara today? I didn't see him. I didn't see him anywhere.
Please understand. It is Parameshwar who stopped the procession from Vidhan Saudha to Chinnaswamy Stadium, thinking that there will be untoward incidents in the big mob. It is his decision as a Home Minister, taken a very careful decision in doing that.
Why did you conduct this program?
One second, I'll just complete.
Why did you conduct this program in such great hurry? You could have waited for 2 days.
These kind of programs have to be done in this
everybody
hurry
would
only.
have definitely come.
No, so
No.
one second. Let me also get B.S. Arun. One second, B.S. Arun. Even for a small, concert or a wedding which has 1,000 people or 2,000 people or 5,000 people, there's always these weddings that happen at the palace grounds and so on. There is always some kind of a police bandobast, at least some kind of information that is sought as to, what kinds of crowds are expected, where will you find the parking for it, what will be the entry and the exit regulations. When you know that a team has won after 18 years and the frenzy you've already seen over the last 12 hours from midnight yesterday till this morning, shouldn't the police have gone to the state government, to the chief minister, to the deputy chief minister and said, boss, we can't organize this. Either get the KSCA to say we'll only have a select crowd of 20 or 30,000 people, which the stadium can host, and you can figure out how you want to invite those people. Or don't say it's open for the public. Don't ask the public to come from Vidhan Sauda to Chinnaswamy Stadium if you can't regulate them.
Zaka, as I said, first of all, it was wrong to hold this event in such a short time without adequate preparation and planning. The very fact that we didn't have adequate number of policemen, adequate number of ambulances, even structures at that stadium shows that police were unprepared for this.
Yeah.
The police may have told the government that they cannot, manage, but in that case, then why the state government agreed? The buck stops, Zaka, with the police and with the state government. No other question about it. Number one. Number two, it is a commercial event. IPL is a commercial event. Why should the state government get involved in this in the first place? I understand if state had won the Ranji Trophy or India had won cricket test series. I can understand that. But why should the state government get involved in this? This is another point. The whole thing is, at the end of the day, it's the state government which has to answer this. It's state government which has to be held accountable.
The point that the opposition is making, BJP is saying that they wanted to ride and get political mileage out of this. That's why they were at the forefront. I mean, look at the people who were at the forefront of it. The Vidhan Sauda function was being done for the Chief Minister. The Deputy Chief Minister was there inside the stadium lifting the trophy. Obviously, politicians will do it for political mileage, right? Why else will they do it?
Like I mentioned one more thing. It's also a question of humanity and sensitivity. 10 people have died or 11 people have died at the same spot, and you still hold an event
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. You know that there's a stampede outside. You know that people have died. You still have the celebration inside the stadium. Mr. Hanumantayya, is that not insensitive?
No, I fully agree with Arun. After coming to know that there is a stampede going on outside and people have died, you should have stopped immediately and prayed for condolences.
They're all
and
fans.
they should have gone for condolences. No, I agree with you, Arun. That way, I don't substantiate that function conducted inside the stadium is right, even after the incident. No, I don't agree with it.
Sanjana, isn't that a basic moot contention? If the state and the organizers were sensitive enough to what was happening outside, they had information. The news channels were flashing it. People were talking about it. It was all over social media. They were completely aware of what was happening outside, and yet they went ahead with the gala celebration. I mean, what does that say about the lack of sensitivity?
No, it's not about the lack of... Can I talk without being intruded?
Sanjana.
Can I talk without being interfered?
Yeah.
It's not about lack of sensitivity. It's just that so many people have gathered, and it's just the pressure of just holding on to your dignity and somehow getting done with it. Irrespective of however you are trying to cover up on your face that, okay, something like this has happened, let's cover up, let's finish it and let's move on. But obviously everyone would have done this with a heavy heart over there, which is not, which they cannot be vocal about because the national media is there, the international media is there, and right now this is international breaking news. So it's just holding up on your dignity. The players are there, they worked so hard, looking at the faces of the players, just doing a quick, simple honor to them and getting done with the event. But obviously, I think everybody right now is mourning already in Karnataka, the entire celebrative mood. Though I'm sitting alone, I was so happy that RCB won. Let me tell you, in my heart, I'm thinking RCB 1:10 deaths happened. I'm just thinking, why did the entire situation itself?
Completely, it was avoidable. It was a needless reason for why these people died. It was just completely uncalled for. And frankly, the sad part is no accountability will be fixed for this. I mean, there's a high-level inquiry that's been ordered by the state government, but will heads roll? Will the head of the police intelligence wing be asked to be held to account? Will the commissioner be asked questions? Will the chairman of the KSCA be asked questions? Will the organizers, the IPL, the RCB owners, will they be asked questions? And ultimately, the buck stops with the chief minister and the deputy chief minister. No question about it. Will those questions be asked as well? Compensation does not mean anything. Please go and speak to the families of these victims. Do they want compensation or do they want their loved ones back? Ultimately, accountability needs to be fixed. We are absolutely abysmal in this country of 1.4 billion people, fourth largest economy, $4 trillion economy. We simply do not have the crowd management capacity, the crowd management capability, that people can go to an event which has a large number of people without fear of their life being lost. That's what happened today in Bengaluru, and very unfortunate. I want to wrap up the show. Hard Facts is coming up next with my colleague Rahul. But our thoughts and prayers to the families of these 11 victims who died, frankly, for no fault of theirs, and frankly, they should not have met with this fate. It was just abysmally bad organizing, abysmally bad intelligence and prediction of the number of people who would turn up, and of course, what's to say about the crowd management. It was just appalling crowd management that led to these deaths. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Co-presented. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
No, it has been marred by the fact that almost 11 lives that we can confirm have been lost as far as this horrible stampede is concerned. Yes, there were too many people out there, there were a lot of youngsters out there, but it is ultimately the responsibility of the state government to ensure that they can handle the crowds that they know very well will be out on the streets. Let me also go across to my guest Vikram Singh and Charu Pragya, both joining us. Charu Pragya, I want to come to you first. The BJP has already launched the first salvos at the Congress government, but would this be the right time to play any politics on this unfortunate incident?
Shivani, good evening. My heartfelt condolences and prayers to people who are injured and those who've lost their lives in this horrific stampede. We are not politicizing this, Shivani, but we must remember that this was a state-sponsored event. This was an event which was planned entirely by the government of Karnataka. It was planned entirely in a way where no permission was taken either from the municipal corporation or from the police. And maybe Congress thought that RCB's win could become a branding exercise for them. This is exactly why we are faced with such a tragedy today. Look at the magnitude of it. Everybody knew there going to be a huge crowd, but there was no pre-event crowd assessment done. There was no barricading. There were no emergency exits. In fact, there were no ambulance zones. And that is our problem. That is exactly what we are criticizing. So if you're expecting a crowd of tens and thousands of people, how can you do it without effective emergency preparedness, without effective crowd control? There were no measures in place. This was a planned stampede, if you ask me, because if you're planning to get lakhs of people, how can you not even have a zone where an ambulance can be parked? If you plan an event and you publicize it, how can you not announce when you're cancelling that very same event? I also want to very quickly say that both the police and the municipality were not on board with this event. So
we'll have to wait and hear more from them. You know, the kind of political pressures that state polices face, I'm not sure whether the truth or whether they were forced to conduct this program against their advice, professional advice, will ever come out. But on the issue of the police itself, let me go across to Vikram Singh as well. In fact, Vikram Singh, just hold on with me. Before that, I want to go across to my colleague Harish, who's joining us from the hospital. Harish, over to you.
Well, Boring Hospital was the one that was the nearest to Chinnaswamy Stadium. Right now, at least 10 injured being treated here. Unfortunately, 7 casualties being reported from Boring Hospital from this stampede-like situation at the Chinnaswamy Stadium. Even as we speak, the Bengaluru City Police Commissioner has rushed to the Boring Hospital. He is here. BJP State President B.Y. Vijayendra is also here. The police trying to ensure that the road and the path towards this emergency section of Boring Hospital is kept clear in case there are more cases that has to be rushed if there is any emergency of sort. So they are now geared up for this. But the scenes one witnessed inside Chinnaswamy Stadium, remember, there are question marks on the preparedness, whether enough people from, whether enough first responders, whether there were stretchers available, other necessary measures put in place, because we are not talking about any other ground. This is a proper structure. This is a stadium that regularly hosts matches, which has more than 30,000 people. Did they have the basic necessities required to host an event of this nature? One. Second is, we've seen whether it's Mumbai post the India's T20 World Cup win or other such road shows, we've seen state governments getting at least a couple of days. Here, that hasn't happened. Remember, this event has been staged in less than 16 hours of RCB winning that cup. So did the state government in a way rush and give permission for the management to host this program? If there were indications from certain security quarters that this perhaps is not the best idea or needs more preparation, why did they allow this in the first place? One. The second point is crowd control. If the stadium has a capacity of only around 34,000, why did they allow at least 80,000 people to reach anywhere close to Chinnaswamy Stadium? Up until a good 3 or 4 in the evening, we had the metro station and their exit and entry points that were operational. You can see in the visual, this BJP state president B.Y. Vijayendra having a very animated conversation of sorts with Bangalore Commissioner B. Dayanand there. The BJP has already called it a direct, it's called this as a murder by the state government.
Viewers, what a tragedy, what an absolute tragedy, not just human beings, not just human lives, but humanity was snuffed out in Bengaluru today. The original sin, the lack of preparedness that caused the stampede is unforgivable. But perhaps even more unpardonable is that the Karnataka government and its publicity-hungry officials, the BCCI, the RCB franchise, and the players who are so fattened on adulation continued with the felicitation ceremony even as people were gasping